living room.
Let's go down to the north lawn of the White House, and the counselor to President Donald J. Trump, Kellyanne Conway, joins us live. Hey, Kellyanne, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Hi.
Hey, I got a question for you. The scuttlebutt is there's a possibility that Justice Anthony Kennedy may announce he is retiring today. What's the very latest on that?
Well, we cannot speculate on that. That is totally Justice Kennedy's decision, and he has served for 30 years, almost 30 years, with distinction and care on the court, and that is entirely his decision. I do know that the president, when he appointed Neil Gorsuch, made very clear that at any time when he gets to a federal appointment, whether it's at the Supreme Court level or the district courts, the circuit courts, that he will appoint people, nominate people who have fidelity to the Constitution, Don't just legislate from the bench, make it up as they go along. And as with Justice Gorsuch, men and women of great judicial temperament and credentials, and people who should be able to attract more than a handful of Democratic votes, frankly, in the Senate. But that decision is entirely up to Justice Kennedy. It's not for us to speculate.
Our question, though, would then be, if there is an opening on the Supreme Court, would the president's nominee be one of the names on the list that he had come up with the help of some of those groups before the election?
He has said that he will look at the list again and again. That ended up being 20 or 21 men and women, all fine judicial scholars and practitioners. And we saw the process, really, with Justice Gorsuch. But again, I don't want this tied to Justice Kennedy or any other one member, because these are lifetime appointments. But I think it's just... the whole process with Justice Gorsuch was very telling, because it happened so early in this administration, Steve, and you saw Democrats who had voted for Neil Gorsuch when he was confirmed to a circuit court turn around. And what was different about Neil Gorsuch in the 10-year interval between getting on the 10th Circuit and the United States Supreme Court? Oh, he had 10 years more experience as a distinguished jurist, and yet they were blinded by their partisanship and their obstruction. And we just can't have that, particularly when you look lower than the United States Supreme Court and you see dozens and dozens, close to 100 vacancies in these courts that this president began with and that he intends to fully nominate.
Right, Kellyanne, this week's big deal for health care, the Obamacare overhaul in the Senate. You need 50 votes from senators. There are 52 Republican senators. No Democrat's going to support this. And then you have these 5 Republicans that saying they're not going to support it. Many of them are saying because too many cuts to Medicaid. You yesterday on the Sunday shows were saying that is not true, no cuts. Now, if you watch the mainstream media this morning, they're saying that you were caught in a lie. So let's let you set the record straight. What's your reaction to that?
It's not a lie. In fact, it's not. This is slowing the growth of Medicaid and allowing governors more flexibility in their states to be able to give the dollars out because they're closest to the people in need. Also, Medicaid continues to be funded. Medicaid over time would be unsustainable and unaffordable because Obamacare failed to bring the costs down for health care. So these states are having a very difficult time meeting the bills. Medicaid is intended for the poor, the needy, and the sick. And what it's done is it's under Obamacare, it's expanded the Medicaid pool of people who, quote, qualified beyond that. So if you have an able-bodied American who, again, is not poor, sick, needy, we're not talking about the elderly who benefit, the children, the pregnant women, the disabled. If you're able-bodied and you would like to go and find employment and have employer-sponsored benefits, then you should be able to do that. And maybe you belong, as Secretary Price has made clear, maybe you belong in other places. But I'm not going to allow people and detractors and Trump haters to call me a liar because they don't want to do the homework and look at what's actually happening to Medicaid. Medicaid also, to keep it sustainable long term, this has to happen, and there are so many other protections in this health care bill for those in need. The fact is, let's remember why we're doing this. Obamacare is unaffordable, unsustainable. 20 million people just last year, folks, opted out of Obamacare. 6.5 million preferred to pay a $3 billion in taxes to the IRS. You know what they could have done with that money? Bought health care through the market. We have 83 insurers have left the exchanges just last year, with 24 more promising to do so in 2018. It's collapsing. It has benefited some Americans. Millions of others were left out of the process.
I want you to hear what Senator Durbin, who he blames for the fact that insurers are dropping out. Listen.
And when you go to the insurance company executives and say, why are you pulling out of markets? Why are you raising premiums? They say the uncertainty in Washington since the arrival of President Trump, who from his first executive order has been undermining health insurance and the Affordable Care Act.
So, you have a response?
Yes. I mean, what is Senator Durbin doing? What are any of the Democrats doing to improve health care in our country? How can he deny that millions of Americans have opted out of Obamacare, have preferred to fork over their hard-earned money in taxes and penalties rather than be part of the system? How can he deny that 83 insurers have left the market with dozens more promising to do so? How can he deny that this is an unaffordable, unsustainable process? And look, this is to improve health care, to make it more free market, more patient-centric, to give people more choices. Obamacare has robbed people of choices. We have 5 states and roughly 1/3 of our counties in this country that have one provider. That's not a choice.
So, Kellyanne,
And so
I think you're
the
right.
premiums exploded. Look, the premiums exploded by average of more than 100%. Premiums were supposed to come down. They've more than doubled in many places. And I just want to say also that the CBO projected 23 to 24 million people would be in Obamacare. There are 10 million.
Right.
So none of this has panned out.
And as Pat Toomey said, this is just the first step. This is a paper. They got to go back and forth all week. Now, in the big picture, though, Chuck Schumer yesterday said if this fails, he says 50-50, he hopes Republicans come and work with Democrats for a plan they can all agree on. What's your response to that as a spokesperson for the president?
I've talked to Senator Schumer directly. I mean, it would be great to get Democrats to the table, but we just don't see it. In fact, their whole motto is obstruct, resist. You have 4 Democratic candidates, all losers in these special elections, all of whom at some level were looking to fortify Obamacare. You have 113 Democratic members in the House right now who have implicitly said Obamacare is not working because they're sponsoring their support Bernie Sanders' bill, which would cost trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars and move us into single payer. So they themselves don't like Obamacare. It would be great to have Democrats on the table on tax reform, on health care, on Neil Gorsuch, on infrastructure. We welcome that completely. Where are they? The president has made very, very clear that he is the president of all Americans, but those Democrats who represent people are not helping those folks.
Kellyanne, thanks so much. Appreciate it. You know what a heartbreak's like. When we come back, Phil Mickelson. He's lefty and good.
As moms, we send our kids out into the world full of hope.
And we don't want something like meningitis B getting in their way.
Meningococcal group B disease, or meningitis B,